on the language I'll be able to help with. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, Noha, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Zoya, and welcome everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm not really sure how many people from which parts of the world are here, but we're delighted to have you no matter where you're joining us from. And it's always really inspiring to be, surrounded with people from all over the world and different cultures, particularly when we're talking about the SDGs, because, this is really not just a government agenda or a UN agenda, but it's a people's agenda. And, we've all learned from the pandemic that, only together, we can really power ahead and really make a difference or progress on these different social challenges that the world has been facing and others. So I'm really delighted to be here. My background as a facilitator today basically is in the international development field. I've worked with international organizations, including the United Nations, with PepsiCo, with UNHCR, the Refugee Agency, UNESCO, and UN Women. I then pivoted to the private sector, where I headed social responsibility and communications at PepsiCo and at McKinsey, covering Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa. And last but not least, at some point, I decided to pursue my purpose and I became a social entrepreneur. People of Impact is actually my third venture. And because I established two other ventures, one was focused on ethical marketing, and the second was a dedicated speakers platform for Arab women to eliminate stereotypes against them and to advance their their representation in leadership. So People of Impact is really about three distinctive things. We are all about driving inclusive economic growth and development. We are looking at advancing grassroots social innovation. So we are dedicated to really consulting to support organizations to strengthen their capacity in advancing the SDGs, particularly with a focus on SDG 5. And secondly, we're all about impact innovation, but we're looking at ways through which we can create different innovation solutions to help people from all levels, from the communities all the way to the public sector entities or to the UN, to engage in bottom-up innovation, finding solutions from the people, for the people, because we also believe that this is the best solutions when they stem out of communities that are affected by the problems and even people like us who experience different issues in daily life. So we are committed to this type of innovation, grassroots social innovation. And last but not least, we really believe in collaboration as people of impact, and we also believe that it should be, across sectors, and we believe in the power of partnerships and the power of collective ideas. So here again, we are building a community for social impact collaboration and for the advancement of the SDGs. I am also delighted today to be joined by an exceptional team that I'm really fortunate and lucky to have in organizing this session. So if you allow me, I'll just pause for a few seconds to allow Demiana and Sandra to also introduce themselves. They are behind also the co-creation of this session, pre-session, all the pre-work that you're going to be, to develop this experience that we'll all go through today. So Demiana, over to you.
Great, thanks Noha, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to be part of this co-creation and help you facilitate and really brainstorm on innovative solutions that will help progress and affect positive change. Background about myself, mostly international development and education. And yeah, I hope that I'm looking forward to learning from all of you and co-creating with you. Sandra?
Wonderful, thank you. Sandra, over to you.
Hello, my name is Sandra. I am a Mexican based in Spain, and I am very lucky to work in this fabulous group. But I hope I can add value to you and all of the groups that we are going to have on creating and ideate fabulous solutions to this gender equality session.
Thank you so much, Sandra. So without further ado, let me jump right into the session in the interest of time. So the objectives of today is for us to all, embark on a journey where we will raise awareness about SDG 5, gain a better understanding about the dimensions of this SDG. Second, as I mentioned, SDGs are a people agenda. So again, this is an opportunity to contribute by ideating, by sharing your thoughts, and by leveraging really the power of collective ideas to make a difference on this particular SDG. What I find really special about SDG 5 and why we selected it for this co-creation session is that it is interconnected with all the SDGs. It links to all of them. When we empower women, when we work on gender equality, all of the other SDGs also, improve, and it is interweaved into all of them. The other thing is, I just wanted to say that in terms of outcome of the session, we plan to tally all the insights collected into a report or a white paper, and we're looking forward to publish that on the, with QS World Merit on their website, but also on the People of Impact LinkedIn page and social media channels. So if anyone at all in the session is not comfortable with that, please make sure, to let us know, because we will find alternative ways of sharing the information. And the other thing is we'll be taking photos of everyone here and also posting that on social media. Again, if you do not wish to be part of the photographs, we'd ask that you close your camera at the end of the session when we're taking the group photo. So, okay, without further ado, I will start with a quick overview on SDG 5, in addition to the progress and the situational context, and that will really form the base for the second part of the session, which is around ideation. So I'm just about to share my screen. Okay. All right, so the reason I titled my presentation Turning Challenge into Opportunity is because when we look at this particular SDG, the progress on it has been stagnating for very long. It's very slow. At the same time, in contrast, we know that there's a great momentum from organizations, from governments, from people to advance gender equality. So there's definitely that basically points to an opportunity, and hence why all of us are here. But it's also very important to understand the impact of events, external events, on the progress towards gender equality. So recently, the world has experienced a pandemic, and as a result, the progress that was even realized on parts of SDG 5 have regressed, and we'll see right now how the situation looks like. So I want to set our mind today that yes, progress is slow, stagnating. There are many challenges around the world of a significant magnitude, including, where women and girls are at the heart of that, always disproportionately impacted. But, us being here with the power of the collective ideas and the power of the collective solutions, we can make a difference. We can bring insights and solutions to decision makers and hopefully try to move the needle on this problem. So I want to start by saying SDG 5, as everyone knows, addresses gender equality and the empowerment of women. And I wanted to make a distinction in the terms, because when I connect with many groups around the world, often there are, there is lack of clarity on the differences between the different terms that are tackled when we talk about gender equality. So I want to talk about and clarify that when we talk about gender equality, we're really talking about providing equal rights between men and women. When we talk about gender balance, it's really about having equal representation, 50-50. When we talk about parity, we're looking at ratios and already also considering, disadvantages that women have faced over the long term. And when we talk about empowerment, it's really about how can we provide women with the tools and the resources that enables them to control access and management of these rights and making decisions from themselves and the choices that they need to make in order to lead and decide on their own destiny. So I just wanted to start with this to set the context of gender equality and make that distinction between the different terms. The importance of gender equality is not just that it is a social or a moral issue. It is really an economic opportunity that would unleash $28 trillion to the global economy by 2025 if we were to achieve, for example, economic empowerment. But beyond that as well, it is a human right. Women's rights are human rights. So it is very important to recognize that when nobody gets left behind, everybody moves forward. So gender equality and finding a solution for that or advancing that doesn't only benefit women, it benefits humanity as a whole. So when we look at this SDG, the UN has developed a number of targets, and you can see them here on the screen. And they range from, eliminating discrimination against women and girls, and this is really discrimination in all its forms. The second is around, a target around eliminating forced marriage and FGM, genital mutilation against women, and harmful traditional practices that impact women and girls. Another target is around access and equal rights to economic resources, ownership of property and financial services. We also look at the elimination of violence against women and girls in all of their forms, so including not just physical, but also emotional and other types of violence. We look at, how do we bridge the gap in terms of addressing the value of unpaid care and promoting shared domestic responsibilities, which, have been borne by women historically, but how can we change that and create more sharing between men and women in this respect to enable women to succeed in the labor force and in public life. We look at promoting empowerment through technology. So, as the world is digitally transforming, how can we leverage technology to empower women, to reach women who are also marginalized in communities, or, to develop solutions, education solutions, for example, that can reach some of the most disadvantaged. So again, how can we leverage technology for women empowerment, for gender equality? The last target is around the adoption and the strengthening of existing policies and legislations to advance gender equality. So here again, this target doesn't only tackle policies at the government level or legislation, but also it refers to organizational policies. So, having seen this plethora of dimensions in this SDG, today, we have selected 3 particular aspects of inequalities to focus on. One is inequalities in leadership, inequalities in the workplace, and socio-economic inequalities. Because basically, if we take the socio-economic dimension, the majority of those impacted by poverty, hunger, access to water, the refugee crises are women. The majority of those who are not connected, for example, to technology or to the internet globally, the total number is 3.4 billion globally, but again, the majority of which are women. So again, one of the groups today, when we start our brainstorming, will be really addressing this dimension of socioeconomic inequality, impacting majorly women and girls much more disproportionately than men. We're also going to look at leadership inequalities because, representation of women continues to be low. We are not meeting minimum standards of 30% representation across organizations globally. The representation of women on boards remains at 20% or lower at the global level, and many other aspects as such. In terms of representation of women in politics, I think it's around 11 or 12 women who are engaged as heads of states or heads of government at the global level. I think it's 11 and 12 on both levels. I'll be sharing the statistic very shortly. I see there's a hand raised up, so I'd like to address that before I continue. If you would like to open your mic, Ambassador Omar. Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm happy to join this Zoom meeting, and I like fighting for women. I like fighting for gender parity. I'm very glad to be part of this. I hope we are going to engage appropriately. Thank you.
Can you please mute? Yes, thank you. So the last dimension we're going to be looking at is really workplace inequalities, which addresses and looks at, what kind of environments should we be creating in workplaces to enable women to thrive, to enable women to reach the leadership level. So in the pandemic, on that note, we have seen that women's leadership matters. All these women leaders that you see on the right of the screen, from New Zealand to Germany to Finland, Denmark, Taiwan, have shown us that women can lead, and not only lead, but they actually lead better in times of crisis. And not only because they are women, it's not only based on gender, but it's based on biological and neurological characteristics that belong to women, like traits like being nurturing, having the resilience, the patience, building strong communities, empathy, all of these things combined with strong leadership characteristics can yield to better leadership. So again, time and again, we are seeing great role models across the world who are showing us that leadership matters. On the socio-economic level, as discussed, women, particularly in disadvantaged communities, are at risk to continue to be driven into poverty due to their lack of income and lack of access to support and social protection. Across the world, there are some numbers that are really interesting, like we know that 740 million women work in the informal economy, which makes up 42% of these sectors, according to the UN Global Compact. And 55% of those employed in the service sector were affected by the pandemic were women. So again, the pandemic has disproportionately affected women's employment, because being in the informal economy means working often in unprotected spaces with lack of protection systems. Many of these women lost their jobs or had to attend to different responsibilities at that time. You also know from ILO that 200 million is the total estimate of jobs that will be lost, in the next year or two, like by 2022. So again, how are we going to tackle that? And 50 million people are likely to face extreme poverty in addition to the existing numbers today. So on the socio-economic front, we know that globally, the progress on the SDGs has regressed. And if we look at the social economic angle again and dimension, around the world, we have 25 million refugees, the majority of which are women. 690 million people every night are on the brink of starvation, going to bed hungry each night. The majority are women. 1.2 billion people who don't have access to electricity, the majority of which as well are women. And last but not least, no access to clean drinking water. 800 million people are in this category, among which the majority are women. So these are really alarming numbers that call for action and call for individual, organizational, governmental, and action at all levels by all stakeholders. So all of us must do something about that, from awareness to the development of programs, to the initiation of innovative startups, to organizations really integrating gender into their policies, budgeting, planning, investments. This is critical for us to continue to progress and not to further regress on these SDGs. So I'll stop here to share a quick video about SDG 5 in particular, and a couple of thoughts from some of my colleagues. Actually, I consult as a senior consultant for UN Women on partnerships. So I will share a video now that talks about SDG 5.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development promises to make human rights real for everyone, everywhere. It has 17 goals, and gender equality cuts across all of them. At a time when we're facing conflict, extremism, and environmental degradation, the SDGs focus on sustainability, equality, peace, and progress. The SDGs challenge deepening inequalities around the world by committing to leave no one behind.
The 2030 Agenda is very clear. There can be no sustainable development without gender equality.
In reality, however, gender inequalities are pervasive in every dimension of sustainable development.
Globally, women and girls are overrepresented among the extreme poor. 330 million women and girls live on less than $1.90 a day. That's 4.4 million more than men.
In nearly 2/3 of countries, women are more likely than men to report food insecurity.
Despite recent progress, access to quality education is still not universal. Globally, 15 million girls will never get a chance to read or write compared to 10 million boys.
Climate change has a disproportionate impact on women and children. They are 14 times as likely as men to die during a disaster. The majority of urban women are living in conditions where they lack access to clean water, improved sanitation facilities, durable housing, or sufficient living space. In many areas, the current rate of progress is too slow to achieve the SDGs by 2030. To turn promises into action, we need to step it up now.
We need public action to tackle inequalities and discrimination.
We need to invest in policies and programs that work for women and girls.
We need more and better data to assess whether what we are doing for women and girls actually works.
And we need greater accountability at all levels for commitments made but not met.
Let's turn these promises into action.
And gender equality into a lived reality for all women and girls.
It's up to all of us
to ensure the journey is successful.
So basically, as you can see from the video, you have a little bit of a snippet around the solutions or the direction that the United Nations wants to see towards addressing this SDG. We need data. There is a lack of data, and hence the role of academia and students and faculty is extremely important in advancing the SDGs. The data available today is not accurate, is not sufficient to really help us, shape policies and solutions and programs that are, really meeting people's needs. The second is, definitely the policies exist in organization, whether private or public, but are they being lived? Are they being role modeled? Are they really matching the needs of the women and girls that they address? So again, how can we address that, and how can we find in this co-creation session ways, to improve on what exists? Solutions exist, but are they effective is the question. And if they're not effective or not that effective, how can we make them so? So when we move into the brainstorming, I would call on everyone to look at this from a lens of innovation, from a lens of expanding our mind beyond what exists. Because the reality, many actors are working on gender equality, but something is not working. So we want to really identify that today. So just moving forward very quickly, before COVID, all these inequalities already existed. They have just been exacerbated. And I want to highlight one very important number, which is, the World Economic Forum told us that it will take us 257 years to achieve economic gender parity, which is 10 generations of women. When you read that number, you think, oh my God, what are we? I mean, this is a hopeless case, but honestly, I think it starts with each one of us. And if each of us, men or women, take one committed action in depth in a sustainable way, things can have a ripple effect and can be changed. And on the organizational level, we can implement small steps, but really with clear indicators, clear data to drive progressive systemic change. This number 257 in the 2021 Global Gender Equality Report has jumped to 267, and we will see shortly that number. So again, as you see, as I mentioned earlier, this is a strategic economic opportunity to address gender equality. It would increase 26% of global GDP. If we were to achieve economic gender parity between men and women, we have a very small representation on boards, as I mentioned earlier, 20%. In terms of even women entrepreneurs beyond workplaces who are accessing, for example, their share to VC funding, the number stands at 4.3, which again points to a clear, inequality or unconscious bias. So now I want to talk about this gender gap for a few seconds. So basically, to close the overall gender gap, WEF is telling us that it will take 135 years for the overall gender gap, and 267. As I mentioned, it regressed 10 years because of the pandemic. So 267 to close the economic gap. Now, it's very important when looking at SDG 5 to understand the drivers behind this, because, it's very easy to say, 267 years, but what does that really mean? Well, there are two opposing trends happening at the same time. On the one hand, we have an increase in the proportion of women skilled professionals. And on the other hand, women continue to be underpaid. And, they earn 10 to 30% less than men for the same kind of work. And at the same time, the trend continues with underrepresentation of women in management and in senior roles. So these trends are, contrasting and opposing and are the drivers for this slow progress. Now, in terms of it's really not a one size fits all or one homogeneous situation across industries. There are disparities, and some of the more male-dominated industries are more impacted in terms of managing to get women to the leadership level. But again, development and progress has regressed on having more women in management and senior leadership roles, with the exception, of course, of healthcare, IT, and manufacturing. But again, I would say still the percentages are very low. So if we take healthcare, it's a workforce that is made up of 75% women, but with only 29% in senior management. So again, there is a greater representation than in other industries, but still the numbers are low. So in closing, I would like to say that, to have a resilient and a faster and more inclusive recovery from COVID-19 and to move into the future, women should be at the heart of this recovery. They should be on every decision-making table, and they should be shaping the way forward. And all organizations, all people should be having the conversation about gender equality before every decision. Even as individuals, we should always put men and women and gender equality first, and really check, are we exercising bias? Are we speaking out against bias as individuals? But as organizations, it's really around mainstreaming gender into policies, planning, budgeting, and programs. So if I would summarize that into a framework, it's really about planning for women, which would be around gender sensitive planning and budgeting in organizations. Buying from women, which is around procurement, diversifying supplier bases in organizations, ensuring that, we take into account the needs of women and men when we are procuring supplies for our businesses, for our organizations, and even for ourselves. So buying from women and investing in women. So in the case, again, of organizations, it's both investing in the development of our own female talent and looking at ways to enable them to reach the leadership level and to develop and grow in their career and to empower them, but also investing in women in the community so that we don't leave anyone behind, as is the slogan of the SDGs. So I will leave it at this, and I will be sharing these slides post-sessions for everybody to refer back to them. But again, for today's session, we are looking at inequalities across socio-economic, workforce, and leadership. And within your groups, you will see in later on, facilitated by Sandra and Damiana and Zoya, within every group, we will be sharing the different challenges that exist under each of these inequalities. And we will also give you the existing solutions. And that doesn't mean that we cannot include that when we brainstorm the solutions, but it means, considering what already exists, how can we improve that, or what else can we do beyond that? Because all of these solutions that you see listed on the screen and that will be shared with you in your groups or on a Padlet board are already being implemented. So just very quickly, before I hand over to Damiana to take us through the next part, I will just share the 3 challenges in each group before we go into the brainstorming. So for workplace inequalities, we have selected 3 top challenges that women face. One is around unequal pay. The second is around culture, creating enabling environments for women to thrive. And the third is around retention, because we know a lot of women enter the labor force And particularly even women in STEMs, you have many graduates, but then it is very challenging to retain them. And also at mid to senior level, due to several reasons, we are losing women talent, and hence the pipeline for leadership becomes thinner and thinner. And there's also another leaking pipeline where women try to attempt to take different career paths, but they don't get retained in the workforce as a whole. So these are the three issues that we thought are of great importance to tackle in the workplace inequalities group. The second, on socio-economic, the challenges we will be looking at to brainstorm around is financial and digital inclusion of women, because that is extremely important. The world is transforming. Those who are not digitally connected will be left behind. Women, if they are not financially included as well into the system, will be left behind. So we need to address that. We're also looking at poverty and at education. On leadership inequalities, we are looking at the lack of women in politics and parliamentary roles. What is the challenge there? Underrepresentation in senior management roles in organizations of the private sector or in business, and underrepresentation on boards. And when you see these slides, there is not, each group will decide on their own which of these three challenges they would like to be tackling. So I'll just stop here and hand over to Demiana to take us through the next part of the session.
Great. Thank you, Noha, and a really amazing presentation.
Thank you.
As Zoya mentioned in the chat, on point. And I'm not just saying that because we're on the same team. We're all on the same team. So right now, Sandra will be sending us out to breakout groups. And in those groups, each one of us, Sandra, Zoya, and I, will be facilitating and helping you develop solutions, vote on what challenges should be addressed, and eventually present at the end of these breakout sessions. So that we save every precious moment of this session. Sandra, please feel free.
So now you all will go to a specific group, and then the facilitators will join with you, join and co-create and ideate together. Sorry. Yes, welcome back. How are you? The timer.
I did not see that coming. What surprise! You're out.
I'm sorry. The time is
No worries.
running. We have to continue.
Yeah, when you're having fun.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
I
but
know.
clearly this is, you know, the co-creation session on its own requires like at least a full hour just to
At least a
change
few
it.
days.
Sure. Well,
Yes.
not the luxury we would have, unfortunately.
No, no. But now is the turn to each representative of each group to share with the rest of the groups how and what kind of solutions or what kind of talk do we manage in each group. So for the first room, where I was the facilitator, I will welcome Olena to share with us what.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and I'd like to say that it was a truly international experience and wonderful group. Thank you very much for wonderful, for orchestrating, such a fruitful discussion. Thank you so much. And I'd like to state that we had representatives from different countries or continents. We had representatives from Egypt. We had representatives of Peru, just Ukraine, and just people from, as far as I understand, also from Lebanon, just so different countries. Excuse me if I forget the countries, but nevertheless, all of them played important role. And we talked about the role of women in different organizations, challenges they face, and most importantly, how to tackle this issue, how to tackle the problem, and we put forward very good from our point of view suggestions. So we can see that on the screen, we talked about Andelia from Peru, made very important statement and shared her insights into just the situation with gender equality and representation of women just in Peru.
Sorry, Alena, sorry for interruption. Do you want to share your screen maybe so that we could all see your working group Padlet?
And we will ask if it is possible our facilitator to help, because she saved that. And I failed to do that. So so usually in entrepreneurship we need several people. We need a team. So that, and can I ask you just to share it? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it just I am here. Well, if you demonstrate the screen. Okay. Just this has already been demonstrated. If you see just the comments made by Delia from Peru, we can see that she has noticed that very many co-workers, although very just important and very active co-workers, showing wonderful KPI where women, just there were men in senior positions who just set the rules and who ruled the rules. So, and the suggestion she put forward was to make to have some kind of gender equality mandate or regulation. And Denis, Professor Litsky from Kyiv National Economic University, Ukraine, suggested introducing the code of conduct, or just such kind of documents that may regulate, and they may just make sure that there is a level playing field and it can be addressed to in any organization when necessary. So this code of conduct, setting up just fundamental rules and suggestions, we think is worth discussing. Another very important point was made by you may see Noha from Egypt, where she talked about wonderful experience where women support women in conducting different activities, just arranging mentorship, coaching, just setting up specific even funds and investment budgets to help each other. This program coincides to very big extent with a program set up at our university, Kyiv National Economic University in Ukraine. By the way, we were founded as a university where girls were just enrolled at the time when they were not accepted in other universities. And we help them through Center for Entrepreneurship, as we believe that it gives opportunity for them to shine and to thrive through different activities, boot camps, competitions, through business clinics. And in our case, it is a self-made businesswoman, charming businesswoman, who is the head of big investment fund, who gives advice to our students and who gives not only practical pieces of advice, but as a big investment fund may help. And we put forward a proposal to the rest of the world. We may set up a network of clinics in different countries, helping countries and women especially to just tackle the issues of COVID and other things. So to help them with business advice and even with money, just putting them in touch with investment funds or people with resources, as we say. We also run very many just policies with orphanages, and we mentioned that, and help them to build their career as academia, as a university, from just school to workplace. And we are proud that IT specialists and orphans turn into IT specialists, and different international associations facilitate girls' role in STEM subjects and in STEM courses. And as an economic university, we also foster girls' participation in such international challenges as CIMA, this Certified Management Accountants program. And we had teams made up of girls in accounting, or in CFA, Certified Financial Analyst challenges, where girls also build up their career in finance and hold positions, and we may see as graduates now just vice presidents of JP Morgan, and we may see how such, so all other participants in different countries may also use this experience and facilitate girls' participation in international competitions. And I know maybe I'm talking too long, and I have also just to mention very important point made by our colleagues also from Egypt. So just there was even a specific group and a specific just committee where just colleagues, women made up to 5 people. The role was to just facilitate and support activities of each other. So and if we turn it on the screen, I can show that very important point. So all in all, just the list of activities is huge, and we suggest, if it is possible, just showcasing these wonderful scenarios and the stories of success to motivate and inspire others. So we would be more than happy to participate in this case sharing activities and business clinic network development all around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olena.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I think that she got all the great impressions about group number 1. Now it's turn for group number 2. Dimiana, who is your representative?
Thank you. Actually, I think we have 2 members. One of them dropped off. 2 actually had disconnected. So Kidist, who was our presenter, is not now got disconnected. So I think Ambassador Umar, I think he's unable to write in the chat. So I think if Ambassador Umar, would you like to share our solution? Yeah, we had a few technical difficulties in our group.
That doesn't sound like he is able to unmute himself. Maybe somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, Kidist is back right now. So I'll see if Kidist is connecting to audio.
While the second group is getting ready, I must say that Alona and Ukraine can present quite a few really inspirational cases, and like starting from, I don't know, Alona Mogiletskaya, Olga Mogiletskaya, who is now head of National Investment Council in Ukraine. And she is a fantastic role model internationally. So yes, I'm with you. When you decide to go this way and run inspirational businesswomen cases, happy to spread the word.
And I think let's pass on to group 3, so that while.
Okay. I think so, Kushbu is with us. I can see her, and hopefully we can hear you. So Kushbu, are you okay to share the screen? And I apologize, something went wrong and we were not able to, create notes in Padlet. So we've shared our ideas in comments rather than sticky notes. Kushbu, over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me just...
You should be able to share your screen from the panel.
I'm able to share the screen, but it's just that I'm not able to see that.
The Padlet?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing in the chat once again. Yep. Or if you want, I can share the screen and you can talk it through.
Yeah. Can everyone see that?
It's getting there. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So firstly, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. It's such a pleasure. And like Olena has also mentioned, it's truly a global experience, that knowing people closely from different countries, be it Germany, be it Nigeria, UK, etc. So it was such a pleasure. And I think since we have, since like also Zoe already mentioned that we're actually having difficulty how to write down our comments. So this is how we have made it, like in the comment section. So Zoe has been kind enough. So whatever we have brainstormed, so what we have understood that when we talk about SG5, let's focus from the grassroots level. So our conversation is revolving around that how basically we can empower women through the access to education, because if we want to touch upon poverty and hunger, or financial and digital inclusion for that matter, I think we need to start from the scratch, and that comes from the space of education. And this is where we have got started into, and we come up with really, I think, great ideas, and it is hard, but given the interest of time, I try to keep it short and succinct. So firstly, what we have discussed, that we need to encourage, first of all, free access to educational content and tools and framework, so that more and more would-based accessibility in the space of education could be provided towards women. And that is where we would be able to impact half of the SDG. And this is where I think the multi-stakeholder approach is needed, where the corporates and the government sector can also come ahead and maybe collaborate in that sense, so that more and more education would be provided to women. Also, what we have seen that the conscious parenting is needed. And when we talk about conscious parenting, what we are actually talking about is there are certain stereotypical norms, especially when we talk about, I think, women space. It's majorly seen that the social and cultural norms are major hindrance, even though they are being educated, but they didn't stay long for the long period of time in the workforce. And that is why I think we need to break down the stereotypes. And that is where, for example, we have talked about like how changing the narrative of early childhood patterns. Like, for example, maybe fairy tales, colors, toys, books, choices. We must have seen that boys go like blue colors for boys, pink is for girls, or fairy tales, where we talk about the Cinderella, like either the happy ending is always, marriage or the treasure. So we need to bring that new stories. We need to craft our own stories. So I think that kind of angle that needs to be touched upon. And this is where also the gender inclusive language across academia, business, social environment, because this is where we can create a supportive community. And also at the same time, we can build up that sense of confidence and resilience at a very early age, where women can actually, where young girls can actually stand up for themselves. So this is something can be done, and for that I think mentorship program should be there. And so as we have seen that, I think more and more supportive and encouraging community is needed. And for example, in India, we have this corporate social responsibility, where each company has to donate some amount of their work for social cause. So rather than investing them, just donating their money, what could be done? They can be invest their money into capacity building program. They could come into certain kind of partnerships where they actually come up with these programs where for example, where the women are actually, where the young girls are actually being taught from a very young age. So I think that is very important, that more and more educational opportunities should be provided at at a young age. And also what we have seen from the example that has been provided here, that the government can play a very major role. So here the government can actually come up with a lot of initiatives and programs where free schools are open for every child, and that is based on totally based on abilities and merit. So that would encourage, in fact, more women also, that to showcase their ability and not just being taught in the patriarchal society. So they can actually break the stereotypes with their own abilities. So this is and we must have seen that is why like STEM scholarships are also coming up nowadays, which are totally again based on the abilities and merits. And also we have talked about the cultural models. And when we talk about the cultural models, again, we need to bring that culture of change, and that culture of change could be and that which need to be tweaked as per the current reality. So this is where I think the stakeholder approach is needed, where the government, the parents, the school authorities need to come ahead. So we need to build that so to say culture of change, where we actually can thrive, not just survive, we can actually thrive. And yeah, so I think I just tried to cover up all the points. And then and this is where we move on to this lack of financial digital inclusion, because like we must have seen that, especially in the pandemic, we have seen that there is more gender inequality, like the gender inequality has also worsened, and also the digital divide between young girls and women. And to address that, firstly, again, we need more funding. And for that matter, we need more source device and donate them to people in need. So we need to identify potential donors or inspire, encourage them, so that they should be matched those in need. And also we need to make sure that the good internet connectivity, so that like nobody should be dropped off because of this poor connectivity connection. And I couldn't stress upon the fact that how much mentorship is needed, so that like they should be empowered in every possible way. And like I said, because when we have seen especially that so many women have actually dropped off in the pandemic because of their unpaid, too much of their investment in unfortunately in unpaid household responsibilities. So I think it's very important that parental leave for both parents, so that with equal pay in that sense, and also more flexibility for work, so that they're able to balance home responsibilities. So this is where we can actually bring a culture of change, and we can actually bring that importance of that gender inclusivity language, and young girls can be able to be themselves and be able to access to education. So thank you so much. I hope I covered all the points. I'm so sorry if I missed out. So
no, great. Thank you so much, Khushbu. You've done great.
Thank you.
Great. And so I think on behalf of Group 2, I suppose I'll share a little bit, and for being sensitive of all of your time, I know we're running a little bit over. I'm going to share a short brief, and then I'll pass on the mic to Noha, who will be sharing the final words of our group session. So our group, we were focused on leadership, of women leadership. And so the challenge that we addressed was underrepresentation of women on boards. And so throughout our discussion, we had spoken about cultural perceptions about women being in leadership positions, and specifically in board governance positions. And so we thought of a media campaign which would change those perceptions, the cultural and catalyze a behavioral shift. And so that media campaign would lead to a development of a platform for women who are board ready, and they can showcase their skills at that point, share profiles, and access different board opportunities. Then from that point, develop a referral network where women and other women as well as men could pledge to raise the profile of these women on the platform. And so it's something that we're really excited about, and the members of the group that are, I think Ambassador Omar is the only one left here, and Kiddis is having connection issues, but I think this was the idea that we ended up generating. And on to you, Noha.
Thank you very much. It's I think across all of the groups, there's been some amazing ideas, and it's very inspiring. I'm very motivated to actually pull together a report that documents all these ideas and perhaps even look at ways to flesh some of these out. Particularly, from group one, I really like the idea around the women business clinics, where women can seek support, get coaching, and make them global, and so on. I also love the idea of investment and education, and all of the ideas of Zoya's group. Honestly, like very much needed to invest in education, to transform mindsets, to build new leadership models. I mean, I agree with all of the recommendations, and I think that, a white paper or research of some sort that kind of provides, perspective on the future in terms of this particular topic would be really interesting. And last but not least, Dimiana, although your group, you had some challenges, I think ultimately my key takeaway is, multiple solutions from giving and providing visibility to women by providing greater exposure for role models, particularly in male-dominated fields, and building directories of women who are board ready and matching them with opportunities, and also giving them the visibility on available board roles that they can apply to. I think these are also interesting solutions. The important thing, I mean, many of these solutions exist, but what I loved across all of the groups I pivoted in is that, we are looking at going beyond the existing solutions and improving on them and adding, I heard in multiple groups, the integration of technology in many ways to further enhance reach, further enhance what exists already. So I really think it's very promising, and as people of impact, we will be taking the lead to synthesize and analyze and build on what you have provided today, and we'll be sharing a report with QS for review and for dissemination to the group who attended this session as a starter. We will not disseminate publicly until we have consent from everybody to do so. So thank you very much for this outstanding, contributions by all. And thank you very much, Zoya and Elaine, for hosting us today and for all your efforts to bring this session to life. And to each and every one of you, I call on you to be advocates and champions for gender equality, men and women, the man as he for she, and the women to start with yourself, because, as you've seen the statistics, to 67 years, no one's going to do it for us. It has to be us pioneering the change and, starting with changing and transforming our own selves, but then our organizations and society, and hopefully together we can create a great impact. So I'll hand over to Zoya now, if she needs.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Noha. Thank you, Dimiana and Sandra, for your support during the session. Thank you for Elaine, who is making all this technical thing happening. I would actually, I'm not going to repeat everything, all the wonderful words that Noha said, but I have one suggestion. And it's something that, being a part of different working groups taught me, that if we want this change to actually happen, if we want to be the change that we want to see happen, how about we set up a challenge for ourselves, and whether, the same group as we're here today, or maybe extended group, we get together in, let's say, February, March next year, and report what we've done either individually, or maybe some of us would want to get together and say, I would love to work with you, and let's see, maybe, you know, I want to learn from your experience and see how I can try and apply some of your ideas in my environment. Now, I've got a quick question. If any of you would love to engage with the rest of the group or with a particular group member, please don't be shy. Message me either on LinkedIn, or I think pretty much everyone has my email here. It's easyzoya@qs.com. Let me know if you'd like to connect with someone or with everyone. And then within either QS World Merit page, or we can create a closed group on LinkedIn. And what I would personally love to see are impact reports. Say, so many wonderful ideas, but can we make at least 10% of them happen? Because that's what would count as impact. Yes, educating the educators is wonderful, but acting on what we've learned is even more wonderful. So yes, that will be my probably only contribution. Again, thank you very much, Noha and people of Impact, and Dimian and Sandra and everyone. And if anyone wants to hang around and have a chat, I think we have another 10 minutes on this particular Zoom link. And I can make, sorry, Dimiana, go ahead.
Sorry, if I might add also, we're in the chat. Sandra has included People of Impact and QS Merit social media links. And we've also got a feedback form that we would love to hear from you with more information on. And actually on the feedback form, do we have a field asking, are you happy for your contact details to be shared with other group members? Because I think that will be, maybe then we can share the outcomes with everyone in open copies via email, and that's how we'll engage. And also on behalf of the QS World Merit, I can say that what we do now with a number of universities in like in our capacity building structure, we run sessions on carbon literacy and climate change. We can definitely work and develop a program, like 1 hour session on gender equalities, and maybe it will be with Noha and her team, maybe it will be with some other also contributors, that if you want to bring it to your organization or to your country, like we work with now with the Ministry of Education of Uzbekistan to run trainings for all the state universities across all SDGs. So please let us know. We'll be happy to coordinate and to deliver something like this for the countries and for the universities. Yep. I'm so excited. I already put down some notes for myself to act on and see how this might work. So Khushbu, Donia, please don't be surprised. I'll be chasing you on LinkedIn.
You're most welcome. We will do too.
Yes,
it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'd love to engage with you more and really keep this, as Zoya mentioned, an ongoing conversation, and really push ourselves and challenge ourselves to create impact.
Do you, with people of impact,
please engage with us as well. Yeah.
Actually, Dimiana, on your point, do you have any kind of open door sessions planned for the first quarter of 2022? Because today's we had like an open door session, but maybe something, the next step one, and maybe Sandra has something to comment on this. I can see she raised her hand.
Yeah, she raised her hand. Sandra.
Well, not about that. I believe that we are going to have a lot of events on People of Impact, to open sessions with different also partners. So we will be very happy to share with all of you all of them. And so I'm sorry, I want to take the final picture to.
Yes.
Regarding best our events, we will share a calendar with Zoya to disseminate to the group around what's happening in Q1 for us. So we do have a number of activities that will be open and all revolving around different SDGs. So we look forward to you.
Okay, let's switch on our cameras.
Yes,
everyone ready?
If I imagine that all that have your cameras on are agree or have no problems to disseminate these pictures in the web, right? Yes,
I think yes, everybody's on board.
Okay, perfect. So ready? 1, 2, 3. 3. I know, wait. 1, 2, 3. Yes, everybody looks amazing. Great.
Woo! Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a lovely
you.
evening, afternoon, morning, whatever is happening.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Take
It was a
care.
pleasure.
Wonderful
Thank you all. Have a
Christmas
beautiful
day. See you
Thanks.
next year.
Take care.
Take care.